This is the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast with your host, Greg Jameson. Influencer marketing is the process of identifying, researching, engaging, and supporting the people who create high-impact conversations with your customers. On each episode, I talk with industry leaders, business rock stars, and internet celebrities who contribute their knowledge about influencing others and growing your influence. Welcome to the 20 Minutes of Influence podcast. I'm your host, Greg Jameson, and I've got a special guest with me today. His name is Scott Aaron, and Scott and I have actually just met, but I'm super excited that he's with me here today. Scott is an internationally acclaimed, award-winning online marketer. He specifically has a lot to share with us today about LinkedIn, and I am excited to hear what he has to say. So welcome, Scott, and why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners more about yourself?
Well, thank you, Greg. I appreciate it, and it's an honor to be here. And as Greg mentioned, my name is Scott Aaron, originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, now in Marlton, New Jersey, just over the bridge. So just to be closer to family. And so I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I always tell people I've been psychologically unemployable for the last 23 years. I started in entrepreneurship when I was 18, just turned 41 in April. And, I started in the health and wellness field, owning and operating several gyms, personal training, sports nutritionist, the everyday gym professional. But the way that I got into it was a little bit unorthodox. My father, also an entrepreneur, in a previous business that he was involved in prior to our first gym, he made some bad business decisions that ended up coming back to bite him and landed him in federal prison for 2.5 years, just about 6 months into opening and owning our first health club. And this happened when I was about 18 and a half, almost 19 years old, a sophomore in college. So the reins were turned over to me. I had to leave the University of Pittsburgh, re-enroll at Temple University in downtown Philadelphia, and then start running the gym without having any experience, not only in the fitness industry, but having no experience in owning and operating a business, leading people, managing people. But when you're kind of thrown into that situation, you learn very, very quickly. And I fell in love with health and wellness. Like I mentioned, got my certifications in sports nutrition, personal training, group fitness. And I actually 4X'd the gym's membership base in the 2.5 years that my father was away. We opened up a second location a year after he got back in 2002. And then in 2003, we were actually approached by another family to actually sell both gyms. And we took the deal and we sold both gyms for $1 million. So at the age of 24, I became a millionaire. And for about a year, just personal trained and kind of was trying to figure out my next move, because that was not, I never planned on exiting the workforce at 24 years old. But my father wanted to get back into having a home base again, owning a gym, doing what we did before. So we opened up our third and final gym in 2004, early 2005. The only problem was, because of the prior experiences, my parents didn't have the credit or the backing to actually open this third gym. It had to be put on my shoulders, which I didn't know what it meant, but I just signed where I had to sign. And 5 years later, I was in $1.5 million of liability debt. And when you stare that kind of thing in the face, it motivates you. You push harder, you work harder. And on a personal note, had my own struggles and battles. And in marriage, I was married and divorced twice between 2009 and 2014. The second marriage did leave me one of the greatest gifts, which is now my 8-year-old little boy, Taylor. But also it gave me the emotional maturity to really figure out what I wanted by figuring out who I was. And I recently got remarried to my forever person, Nancy, a couple months ago. And we're just living life on our own terms. And it took a while to get there. In 2013, as I was exiting my second major relationship, I started doing online marketing, and I didn't really know what it was, but a lot of industries changed with the advent of the internet and social media, and the gym industry was one of them. And I fell in love with how you can market and build a business online. Quickly grew a very successful online business within 4 years, earning close to $400,000 during that time period. But also a lot of that, Greg, was due to how I was leveraging LinkedIn. I realized that human connection and our ability to connect with other people is one of the greatest and best business tools that we have. People just weren't using it. They were trying to set it and forget it and automate everything. But I stayed in the trenches, and I still do to this day. And I kind of unlocked something with LinkedIn and reached out to a couple friends of mine. I said, listen, let me show you what I've been doing to get the results that I'm getting. And people started getting results. And one of my buddies actually reached out to me and said, listen, I've booked 14 calls in the last week following what you told me to do. You could be helping a lot of business owners. You should be teaching this. So I started teaching it, launched my coaching practice in early 2016. And there was one other obstacle, and that was this third and final gym. My father and I had parted ways about a year and a half before. I had just uncovered some documents where I found out I was liable for even more money. And if I was going to get myself out of the situation, I had to do it without any distractions. And he didn't argue. There was no fighting. We didn't speak for a while, but he didn't negate how I felt. But also he didn't stop me from pursuing what I wanted to pursue. So he did leave the gym and he found somewhere else to train. I took it over full time, and everything kind of came to a head in July of 2016 when I was sitting in my lawyer's office, and he said, listen, you got two choices. Your gym's losing $3,000 a month. You're funneling money from your two successful businesses into your one failing one. And I don't know how much longer you can do this for. And he said, your other option is you file for Chapter 7 personal bankruptcy, because one of the documents, Greg, that I mentioned prior was the lease of the gym. And I was just entered my third 5-year extension. I was in year 2, and I was the personal guarantor of that lease. And for those that don't know what that means, when you're the personal guarantor of a lease, whether that business succeeds or fails, it doesn't matter. I was still personally liable for all that income, which was close to another $500,000. And at that point, I asked my lawyer, I said, what is best? And he said, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being a slam dunk, don't even hesitate filing for bankruptcy, 1 being don't do it, keep going. He goes, you're a 9.5. So on July 1st of 2016, I did file for personal bankruptcy, closed the gym 30 days later. And on August 1st, I really started living life on my own terms. It was 18 years of struggle, of continuing to move forward. But everything that I'm doing now is a direct reflection of the relationships, the conversations, the 60,000 hours of working with people one-on-one, and everything that I did, that it was the armor that I was building that led me to be able to do what I'm doing today, writing the books and speaking on all the stages and training all the individuals that I get to. And I always tell people that your failures open the doors to your successes. So when you learn how to fail, you're going to learn how to succeed. And that's a very simple message I have for everyone. And that's what I'm doing today.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. You said a bunch of things in there that got me thinking. One is the fact that you've been an entrepreneur your entire life. So many times I hear people talk about leaving the corporate grind and, getting out of Cubicle Nation and starting your own business and whatever. And you, like me, have been doing this our entire lives. So we don't know what it's like to be at a cubicle.
I have no idea. It's interesting. We call it going from the bedroom to the boardroom. I've never worked for anyone, and it's not that like I'm not one of those. When we have an organization that we run now. I'm not like a dictator by any means, but I've always called the shots. I'm the visionary behind everything that I've been doing, and now my wife and I are the visionaries behind what we're building. So. Yeah, like that 9 to 5, which I actually found out recently was actually created by Henry Ford. Henry Ford is the person who actually created the 9 to 5 job cycle, because when he opened Ford Motor Company, he wanted to create a strategic schedule, a system for people to follow to churn out what needed to be churning out. But society adopted this 9 to 5 mentality. And once you get too embedded into it, Greg, it's hard to get out of it. So like you, I am grateful that I was kind of thrown into the entrepreneurial wolf pack where I could really figure out how to survive and now thrive in it.
Yeah. The other thing that, I mean, your story there is amazing, you know, with all of the struggles that you've had and whatnot. And I think that that is true for anybody that ever starts their own business, is that if you don't ever have any pain of some kind, then you need that struggle to not only make you stronger, you need that struggle to actually make the business work.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many people that have the whole thing of getting an investor, and they've never had to fight for the next sale type thing. And if that's the case, then you don't end up being a very lean machine. You end up being kind of a big fat machine.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, you know, entrepreneurship looks different to different people. And what I know now about entrepreneurship is that, yeah, as human beings, we're creative creatures, and every single one of us has a gift inside of us that we can turn into a business. But a lot of people get stuck in this mentality that I just want to work for someone else. For me, to create the life that I want for myself, my wife, my son, our future family, it wasn't going to happen if I was going to be working for someone else's dream, if I was going to be valued. And that's what people don't realize. I want you guys to hear this loud and clear. Whatever base salary you have, it's not the marketplace that's determining your value. The person that you're working for, the company that you're working for, is determining your value. And no human being should ever allow themselves to be valued at anything. We're all priceless. We create our own economy. And that's something that my wife and I live by. Like, we're creating our own economy right now. No matter what the temperature of what's going on in the world, the pandemic, you know, elections, whatever it is, that's fine. That's just the outside noise. But inside our little business bubble, we have a business to run. I can't afford to get caught up in that. Because if I get caught up in that mess, I'm not showing up the right way. I'm not serving my clients the right way. And I know for certain our business will not be growing the way it is if we were getting distracted.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't try to be oblivious to what's going on in the world, but I certainly don't spend an hour a day watching the news getting consumed by it, because it just drags you down. That's not good for anybody.
No. And again, to your point, I am 100% conscious of what's going on in the world. You know, the great thing about having a Siri or Alexa in your kitchen, I can put NPR on for 6 or 7 minutes and it gives you kind of the rundown of what's going on. And then we, you know, say, Alexa, stop, and we go about our morning. So I'm always in tune what's going on in the world. I need to know what's going on. But I don't need to spend, like you said, an hour and a half a day going down that scroll hole of all of the noise that's out there. Because again, when you have an organization to run, when you have people that you're responsible for, people that work for you, people that you're working with, you can't afford to be distracted by all the outside noise. But to your point again, I am absolutely conscious to it. I know exactly what's going on. I am very aware, very in tune. But again, that's just a small blip on my business radar.
Yeah. So let's shift direction here a little bit and talk about what you were saying there about LinkedIn. I am curious, as I'm sure anybody listening is curious, as to what exactly you did to kind of take LinkedIn and make it be your slave.
So it's a great question. And it goes back to actually one of my first mentors, Susan Sly, said to me. And she said, Scott, when you're looking to build a business, you need to look yourself in the mirror and you need to ask yourself, how are you going to connect with yourself today? And it was like one of those light bulb moments. I'm like, that's it. You know, if I'm going to build a business that revolves around helping other people within business, the most relatable conversations I am going to have are going to be with people that are just like me, other trainers, other nutritionists, other gym owners at that time. And at the very same time, I was reading a book called Go for No. Anyone that wants to learn how to become better at sales, how to close more sales, how to create more wealth, this is the only book you need to read on that. And it's by Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton. Andrea has since become a friend of mine. She was on my podcast. We've had some private calls together. And on the cover, it says, yes is the destination, but no is how you get there. And I was going about business all wrong, Greg. I was going after the yeses. And whenever you're going after yeses, you're going to be disappointed 100% of the time. Because in any business, I don't care what you're selling and what you're doing, you're going to hear 7 to 10 times more no's than you will yeses. But if you reverse engineer that and you realize the more no's you get, you're one step closer to yes, it's going to keep you moving forward no matter what, because you know there's a yes right around the corner. So when I applied that mentality to a business first platform, and that's the big difference, business first. Facebook is a barbecue. That's where people go to hang out. And Instagram is a reality TV show. Whatever you guys are looking on Instagram, it's completely fake, down to the followers. People are buying followers. I was one of them. I was told by people within the personal development space, if you want credibility, you need to get to 10,000 followers as quick as you can. You need to buy some. And I did. And you think it looks credible, but it's not. And I have since cleared it all out. I hired a company to come in and literally clean up my Instagram because I wanted it as genuine and authentic as possible, because it wasn't. And most of the people that are on that platform are doing the same exact thing, and they're fooling people. And what I loved about LinkedIn, it's a global networking platform. It's where people want to network and connect. And if you've ever read The Science of Getting Rich, which I also recommend people to read, Wallace D. Wattles, this was the first money mindset book ever written in 1910. And he talks about living in a world of creation and collaboration instead of a world of competition and comparison. So you want to create and collaborate as much as possible with the right kind of people. And I dove into LinkedIn. The age demographic is perfect, 30 to 55 years old. The average income is wonderful, $100,000 a year or more these people make, compared to Facebook and Instagram, which is $30,000 a year or less. But also, you're allowed 30,000 organic connections on LinkedIn. 30,000. That's 6 times larger than Facebook. So the old saying is, your net worth is in correlation to your network. If you want to create more of a net worth, you have to create a larger network. And when I read that statistic and I started getting on the platform, it was a no-brainer. And Greg, people ask me all the time, well, why aren't people on there? Or, I thought it was for recruiters or people trying to find a job and everyone's spamming me. Listen, that's any platform. But if you use it in a very streamlined and strategic way, it could produce massive results for life.
Yeah. And I think we've all seen it where somebody wants to connect with you, and as soon as they connect with you, they immediately spam you with their latest offer. But the reality is that just like any other social platform, you don't have to stay connected with them. if they're a spammer, get rid of them.
And you don't have to respond either. So it was funny. I got a message. This will be good. This will be good for the listeners, actually. So I got a message yesterday, and I always challenge people when they send me these Drunkalogs because I just don't have time for it. So this woman who I've never connected with, right? Never. Hi, Scott. I hope you're well. I'm reaching out to my network today to let you know about a new service offering we are really excited for, and we are receiving amazing feedback about it. At GoFogIt, we launch a new training and certification to help businesses reopen safely and stay open, and we all do the legwork for you, yada, yada, yada. And all you have to do is show our customers, and you have you have a standard to go by. Would love to chat with you this week to see if it makes sense for you. When works for you, talk soon, so-and-so. Now, first of all, my business never closed. My business and my wife's business has grown during the pandemic. That's number one. Number two, did you even ask anything about what kind of business I run and if I need any help at all? So I actually wrote her back. I said, "Hi, Melissa, are you sending this unwarranted sales pitch email to everyone on LinkedIn?" And she wrote, "Hi, Scott, I am not honestly trying to help businesses reopen. If it doesn't make sense for you, then I totally understand." And I obviously unconnected with her. How do you know if it makes sense for me or not? You haven't even asked what I may be needing right now. And Greg, this is the problem with the amateurs in sales and the amateurs in entrepreneurship. That's a minor league move right there. That's a minor league. That's not a major league move. That's a minor league move. That you are never going to get to the big leagues sending drunkalog messages like that to your network.
Yeah, I get those all the time too. And before I tell you that, I'm just going to make a quick comment here to our listeners. Normally you're expecting a break in here. I'm having way too much fun with Scott. We're just going straight through here. So back to the message part there. One of the things that I do is help people sell their products and services online through an e-commerce website. And I help them with their marketing and so forth to do that. And I get those kind of messages where people are like, "Hey, I can build you an e-commerce website." And I'm like, "How about if I build you one?"
Have you not looked at my profile where it says e-commerce all over it? Like, I get the same thing when people are like, "You want to generate more LinkedIn leads? We should definitely talk." I'm like, have you not read either of my best-selling books or read my entire profile at all?
Yeah. So tell me and our listeners what it is that you, in fact, do to generate the kind of business that you're talking about here through LinkedIn.
So it's a great question, and this is going to basically summarize everything. I'm a very visual person. So what I want the listeners to do is I want you to picture a 3-tier wedding cake. So you have the big base at the bottom, and then you have a medium small tier, and then you have the figurine of the happy couple on top. So literally 4 layers. I call this the 4 layers of LinkedIn. And the bottom layer, the base of what you need to focus on first and foremost is your profile. Most people sell themselves short because they're not utilizing their profile to its fullest capability. You can literally generate leads. You can generate email captures. You can generate phone calls booked right from your profile. You just don't have the right things on it. When Microsoft bought LinkedIn out nearly 5 years ago, they embedded search engine optimization. They wanted people to have SEO on their profile that's going to talk to Google. And anyone can, like, for any of the listeners, go on to Google right now and just type in Scott Aaron, SCOTTAARON. One of the first things that's going to come up in that search is my LinkedIn profile. Yeah. So Microsoft and Google work very, very closely together. Now, if anyone goes to my website, scottaaron.net, there'll be a pop-up to download a free profile infograph. And basically, it's 6 steps to perfecting your profile. Very simple, making sure you have the right headshot, background photo, the About Me section where you have a call to action, where people can call you or email you, having some quantified measures of how you've helped people, the experience section, licenses and certifications, your education, and volunteer experience. LinkedIn is a very philanthropic platform, so don't hesitate to let people know all the giving back that you've done. Now, once your profile is optimized with the right keywords, because again, you want to appear in certain searches and you want certain people visiting your profile just like a website. You want the ideal people having the ideal eyeballs on it. The second part is building out your network. And again, I said this earlier on, your net worth is in direct correlation to your network. You get 30,000 connections, and Greg actually put his thumb on this pretty well. If you get a message from someone that you connect with and they automatically have this like pop-up drunkalog message, unconnect with them, because you don't want that kind of person taking the space of one of your 30,000 connections when you can actually have someone that you can do something with. And you guys may be listening to this and thinking in your head, well, Scott, 30,000 connections is a hell of a lot of connections. Listen, trust me, I know it is, but when you get to 28,000 like I have in the last 3 years, you're going to be much more selective, and I wish I was early on. I'm going to go back and clean things up, but my suggestion is slow and steady will always win the race. So really make sure that you're building a network of people that you can have relatable conversations with without even knowing them. So similar industries, similar business backgrounds, whatever it is, the greatest connecting point between two people that don't know each other is shared pain. And included in that is shared business pain. So during this pandemic and everything that's going on, you can relate to a lot of people that may be going through the same things that you are right now. And that's how you create a really good, genuine connection. Now, the next part of that, and this is where the wheels typically fall off, Greg, and that's messaging. So again, we've said 18 times how you shouldn't message someone, but people are now saying, well, how do I message? So I created something called the magic formula. And the magic formula is a 3-step process of crafting a message that is very genuine, authentic from your heart that you would send to someone where it's going to lead to more phone calls. And it's this simple. Step 1, you mention the person's name. Hey, Greg, great to be connected to you. Step 2, I call it lowering the drawbridge. And if you guys are familiar with the drawbridge, when it's up, it allows the boats to pass back and forth. When it's down, the traffic will then begin to flow back and forth. It's your job to lower the drawbridge between you and that new connection by letting them know why you should get on the phone without pitching or selling. So my example would be this. Hey, Greg, great to be connected to you. I noticed that you had a business podcast, as do I. Would love to hear more about it, share more about mine to see how we can support each other here on the platform. Now, I've done 2 things. I've let Greg know that I've lowered the drawbridge and the connecting point of why we should connect. We both have business podcasts. That makes sense of why we should connect. The second thing I did is I used one of the most important words in the English language, and that word is support. It's been scientifically proven that when people hear the word support, it actually triggers the brain to produce our own organic chemical called oxytocin. It's our feel-good brain chemical, just like serotonin or dopamine or endorphins or cortisol, which is our stress hormone. So this person is feeling good as they're reading this message. Third and final part, you finish with a call to action, a CTA. You have to ASK to GET. You have to ask in order to get. And I would simply say, Greg, anytime for a call this or next week. That's it. You state their name, reason for reaching out, and a call to action. I can guarantee you guys, trust me, take that message outline, create one for yourself, send it to 20 new connections that you've made. I guarantee you, you will have people respond back. Now, the cherry on top of this is content creation. As you guys are listening to this, LinkedIn right now currently is the #1 platform for organic reach, organic visibility, and organic engagement. You're just not using it. Now, here's my suggestion. Produce 1 piece of content 5 days a week on LinkedIn. You don't have to do it every single day or 3 times a day. 5 days a week, even 3 days a week, produce a piece of content. And there's 3 types of content: video, articles, and general posts. Now, back to the messaging aspect, never sell, never pitch in your content. If you're going to produce content, do one of 2 things. Educate your audience and inform your audience. You want to bring people closer to you. How do you do that? You educate them and you inform them and you leave them better and you leave them wanting more. So this is a push-pull method. The push is you organically reaching out to people to set up calls. And there's going to be a handful of people that don't respond to that message and a handful of people that don't want to talk right away. They want to check you out and see what you're all about. And that's why the pull, the content creation, brings people closer to you instead of pushing them further away. So you literally optimize and then monetize LinkedIn in your favor just by showing up. And what I stated, I spend 15 minutes a day on the platform, and it creates more leads than I have time.
That is amazing information. And quite honestly, we are up against the clock here, and I wish we could go on for another hour because this has been fascinating for me. I've really enjoyed talking with you here. So is there any kind of final words that you want to leave people with, or a place where they can stay connected with you?
Yeah, I'll leave a final word and where you can find me. You can find me scottaaron.net. That's my website, but on social media, I'm on every platform, literally. You just type in Scott Aaron, you'll find my handles. Instagram is @ScottAaron, LinkedIn. I have Facebook business pages, private groups. I have a podcast called Network Marketing Made Simple. I got a couple, 4 books on Amazon. So you just literally type my name, something will come up. As far as my final word, it's something that I learned from my buddy, Cody Schuin, who wrote a wonderful book called Your Everyday Legacy. Wonderful book. And he was he was a funeral director for 15 years. And in the book, and we talked about this on my podcast, there was a story where he was doing a service, and I mean, hundreds upon hundreds of people showed up to pay the respects to this gentleman that had passed. And he had a very large family, lots of kids. And after the service, he went up to the one son and he said, I've never seen a service like this before. Your father must have been just an amazing human being. And he goes, he was. And he goes, this wasn't even a tenth of the lives that he touched. And he said to him, he goes, well, what's the best piece of advice your father ever gave you? And he said, strangely enough, one of the best pieces of advice that my father ever gave me was right before he passed away. And he said to me, son, don't wait until you're gone for your legacy to be felt. Leave it while you're still living. And when I read that, and then when I heard that, it shifts you. It moves you, because so many people are not living in the moment. Right now, the way that you show up is the way that people see you, and it's what they feel. And I'm telling you, when you guys start to realize that you can leave that legacy right now, you will start showing up different. I
totally agree with that sentiment. And Scott, I just really want to thank you for being here today. This has been amazing. In fact, I want to have you back. The time was too short here today. We've got more to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, again, you do some great stuff online, as do I. I think we can definitely find some other things to talk about, but really grateful to be here. And I appreciate you having me today.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of 20 Minutes of Influence. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please leave a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you are interested in booking myself as a speaker at one of your events, or are interested in any of my coaching programs, please visit gregjameson.com.